time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
It feels good. I ran on a little bit last week, so I'm eager to run on it today. So I'll be back. It's my first day back practicing, so just have to see how I go from there. But it's feeling good.
You know, I never want to put a player out there if he's not full speed, he can't protect himself. So those are things to me that are really important. That we check off all the boxes as far as those things are concerned before he goes back on the field. But again, guys, we're a long way away from that, so we still got a lot of time. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here.
Here is McCullers 2-0. Swung on a high pop. That'll do it. Shallow center. Springer in. Springer makes the catch. Ball game over. American League Championship Series over. And Houston wins.
Well, you didn't have a cut from the New Orleans Saints radio network also to throw in there, too?
No.
All right. Hey, welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Great to be back with you. Thank you to Willie P. for Friday night.
You're welcome.
Pro is back from his annual first week of the NBA season vacation. I hope you watched a lot of games. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you were. Are you stealing from the cable company again this year, getting the NBA channel for free?
Who said I stole from him before?
Okay, I won't tell the story then.
I
won't tell the story that you were getting the NBA channel for free and never called the cable company.
You know what snitches get, Corn?
What's that?
They get ditches, man.
Ooh.
They get ditches. Don't be a snitch. You'd be like what happened to whoever leaked that Clemson Fight Club video, man. I'm sure that guy had to run for days.
You know, I said last night when it came out, not last night, last week when it came out, I said, will Dabo be mad about the fighting or the fact that somebody leaked it?
That's the thing. That's the thing that I think people are more mad about is the snitching.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with wanting to, toughen yourself up by going in boxing and all that.
They were just clowning around. They were just guys in the locker room clowning around, breaking up the day of football stuff with some gloves on and just punching around. What is the big deal?
So the sleeping room and the sliding board wasn't good enough.
I guess not.
The slide.
I guess they woke up from their nap, felt like they had to burn off some energy, and they went after it.
I want to discuss the little veiled shot toward the upstate.
You really think so? Really? He was answering a question about
Deebo Samuel.
Right.
And he said that I would never put a player out there who wasn't 100% and couldn't protect himself, which is exactly what we were talking about last week with Kelly Bryant.
Well, when you're a quarterback and you're not 100% and you're running around, you can't really protect yourself because you're the most vulnerable player on the field, except for a receiver going up for a pass over the middle.
Unless you run out of the tackle box and throw it out of bounds before anybody hits you.
And he didn't have the ability to move at 100%. And it sounds like from hearing from Kelly Bryant, we'll hear from him later on in the show, it seems like that ankle still isn't 100%. Yet the Clemson coaching staff and he seem to think that he is starting at quarterback on Saturday. And I'm thinking, why? Why in the world are they doing this still? Didn't we do this last week?
It's very simple.
Because their backups stink.
They can't win without him, apparently. The other two guys just aren't ready to win at a high level.
Then that is an indictment on you as a coaching staff.
Well, I mean, they are freshmen. I mean, one's a true freshman, one's a redshirt freshman. Listen, freshman quarterbacks, by and large, don't win, except at Alabama. And that's a different animal. That's why people.
But Clemson has what Alabama has. They have a veteran offensive line, and they got some good backs.
And great skill position players.
And let's face it, you would think that with NC State coming up in 2 weeks, NC State gets beat up by Notre Dame, and then you bring
or the other way around, back. Or the other way. I mean, I think. Not knowing the severity of the injury going into the Syracuse game, you were at the Wake Forest game. You saw him get hurt, but we talked about it before the Syracuse game, and we said, maybe it might be smart to sit him down for Syracuse, given the Syracuse week and the off week,
and the turf,
to get fully healthy, and stay off the turf and get fully healthy for the last month of the season.
I was at both of those games, and I saw him testing out that ankle after the Wake Forest injury. He couldn't run, and he even said today that he hurt that Syracuse injury. He tweaked that ankle in the first quarter. So for the balance of the time he was in that game, he was not 100%. He said it. He admitted it.
Well,
he knew he wasn't 100%.
Listen, I don't believe for a second Dabo or anybody else on his staff will risk a player to a serious injury if they're hurt. However, they did tape together Deshaun Watson's knee to beat South Carolina a couple of years ago. When he was playing, we didn't find out till later, he was playing with a torn ACL.
Mm-hmm.
But they told him, you can't do any more damage to it. And they concocted an apparatus to hold it together and get him through the game, and they did, and they won. And South Carolina got beat by a one-legged quarterback that day.
All I'm saying is Will Muschamp is not dumb, and he chooses his words very carefully. And I want to say that might have been a little veiled shot toward the upstate.
Speaking of the Gamecocks, and I know this is dreamland for Gamecock land now, but just the way things are playing out right now, just bear with me for a second and listen to this possibility. Win the rest of your SEC games. Let's beat Vanderbilt, okay? Florida beats Georgia, okay? And then you go to Athens at 3:30 in a couple of weeks, and you've got kind of a Georgia team dragging after getting beat by Florida in a game it was favored to win. Say you go in there and you upset Georgia. You come home, if somebody can knock off Kentucky one time for you, you come home to play Florida with the SEC East Championship up for grabs.
I think that's all
There's
very nice.
There's a lot of ifs. I get it. There's a lot of ifs.
I think that's all very
nice.
But
I do think at the very least they will be 4-2 in the league. They'll beat Vanderbilt. They'll be 4-2 going to Georgia. And now we'll have to wait and see what happens in Georgia. But, it's going to give the Gamecocks – they got to have something to play for in the league, and they should look at it that way, that if you can take care of your own business, things might fall your way.
Regardless of how you might feel about South Carolina's ability to beat Georgia, I don't know if they'll get the help. I really don't.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think
Kentucky still has to play Tennessee.
They'll win that.
Well, wait
till
they
have to play Georgia.
But then again, who thought? Did anybody think Kentucky would get hammered by 38 points at Mississippi?
But Tennessee is a dumpster fire.
Well, see, that's if
and
I'm
Florida's close.
If I'm South Carolina, that's what I'm Will Muschamp. That's what I'm pointing to. That's why he says, I want to see how this team plays Saturday before I say it. The open date was good because Kentucky came out as flat as a pancake.
I'm going to say something that makes me a very popular person. Gainesville, Florida.
That's impossible.
Gainesville, Florida is actual trash, but the Florida football team is more actual trash.
Kentucky has Tennessee at home this week. Let the Florida fans be mad at you.
Don't care.
Tennessee at home this week. Then they have Ole Miss at home. Ole Miss has lost its starting quarterback for the season in Shea Patterson. They go to Vanderbilt, and they go to Georgia. So there's Georgia looming on November 18th. That could be, if South Carolina can take care of its business, that could be the other one for Kentucky.
I think that they could get the help they need in Kentucky. I don't think that Florida can beat Georgia. I don't.
I don't either. And plus, too much too soon. Ole Miss skyrocketed. Look what happened.
But I will
not
say
saying
this.
in the fairies going on in South Carolina, but sometimes you rise up too fast. You're South Carolina, just ease your way up.
But I will say this.
Try and tell that to the fans.
I will say this.
They need to deal with it.
If you finish second in this division, that is not a bad place to be sitting off of a year where in various iterations, we've been talking about wanting to get rid of the offensive coordinator. There was sitting at 1-2 at one point and wondering just exactly what the direction of this football team is. If you end the season finishing second to Georgia in the division, that is a heck of a step forward.
You kept your quarterback healthy, but you lost your bell cow as far as big play is concerned.
Yeah, doing that without Debo.
You lost 3/5 of your offensive line.
How about this? How about this scenario?
And
they beat
Bryson
Vanderbilt. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Georgia. Kentucky loses a game in there. Florida comes to town. And Debo comes trotting out of the locker room to lead the charge onto the field.
Now this, what if he does come out and trot basically against Clemson. That's the big thing.
That's possible. Hey, we got the North-South rosters coming up for you in just a moment here on Sports Talk.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. The group is all together once again. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at sesoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Let me give you tonight's award-winning lineup here on Sports Talk in just a moment. Going to go over the rosters for the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Game. We got those earlier today. We'll hear from the two head coaches coming up at the bottom of the hour. Zach Willis with us in hour number 2, David Shelton as well, as we look back at the high schools as regular season's winding to a close. Mick Mixon, voice of the toothless Panthers yesterday.
What a loss for them yesterday, man. In their wins,
I needed them to do something.
In their wins, they've looked really good. And their losses, they've looked putrid.
How do you get beat in the NFL by a quarterback who completes 4 passes?
They didn't get beat by the quarterback. They got beat by their own mistakes. They had 2 defensive touchdowns.
By a rookie defensive back, a fumble recovery and interception.
All the points the Bears got were on defense.
I know this. It's very upsetting to a Packer fan. It was a tough weekend for me in terms of sports, with the Yankees going down twice, losing a chance to get to the World Series, and then, of course, the Packers are going down hard yesterday. But you know what? Just like the song says, I will survive.
I'm not going to cry. You got a good young team. All you need is a couple of more pitchers, and you're there.
Before we get to the rosters, Kelly Bryant, what did he say about himself today?
He said that his ankle is about 80 to 85%. He did not practice at all last week. He took a lot of mental reps, was standing by the coaches, but they are grooming him to be able to start. And he said he will test the ankle today. He will run for the first time since getting knocked out against Syracuse today at practice. And he said that he believes that after getting some more treatment, he will be good to go by Saturday.
That's excellent. A couple of other quick notes, then we're going to lay down for you the players who were selected for the Touchstone Energy North-South game. You heard me allude to it a little while ago. USC Georgia will be a 3:30 kick.
CBS Tiffany Network, a doubleheader with LSU, Alabama.
Same day, Clemson, NC State. Can't tell you. 6-day window. So we won't know until Sunday, the kickoff. It'll either be 3:30 or between 7:15 and 8 on either ABC or ESPN.
I got friends you could stay with in Raleigh if you want.
Thank you.
ABC in Raleigh. I picked that night.
You pick a night game? Well, they're probably waiting to see how the games turn out, this weekend. Well, by the way, they finally put out a line on Clemson, Georgia Tech.
14.5.
14.5. Clemson is favored there.
A little high.
USC is a favorite over Vanderbilt.
Yes.
As well. Do you remember how much?
7.5.
7.5. Okay. All right. Let's get to the other important news of the day, and that is the names selected, the players selected for the annual Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Football Game. Always a big event. Of course, you have the Shrine Bowl. They do get the first selection of the players in the state, and the North-South selects the other players. And it's always, because our state does have such a deep list of really good players. Not all of them are major college prospects. You still get good football players at a variety of levels. So these are the gentlemen who have been selected by their respective coaches. For the North, Jet Turner of Woodmont. And for the South, Nate Thompson of Carvers Bay. I'll give you the North, and Willie P. here will give you the South.
Got it.
Is that cool with you?
That's fine.
So we begin with the North. Athlete Ryan Harriet, Fort Mill. Defensive backs, Bryce Jackson, Abbeville. B.J. Davis, South Point. Jacob Harris of Greer. DeJuan Bell of North Augusta. Tyler Morrison of T.L. Hanna. A.J. Rogers of Burns. Dermonte Romy of Westwood, Von Ramsey of Greenwood. Defensive lineman, Nazar Mallory of Sharon. Of course, we apologize for pronunciations and any misspellings we have on the website until we actually get to meet the players and see them write their names and hear them say their names. Sometimes we don't know how to pronounce them. Anyway, Nazir Mallory, Sharon, these are defensive linemen. Austin Daniel of Belton Honeypath, DeJuan Joyner of Blackville Hilda, Omar Foster of Burns, Jacob Stone, Palmetto, Chance Miller, Northwestern, Jalen Belton, Dorman, Belton, McKittrick of Andrew Jackson, kicker, Cliff, Gannon, Christchurch. Linebackers, Reggie Anderson, Spartanburg, Demond Johnson of Saluda, Graham Derrick of Boiling Springs, Jablonski Green of Lamar, Isaiah McCullough, Woodmont, Garrett Saye of Hillcrest. Offensive linemen, Jackson Nash, Malden, Dylan Brock, Boiling Springs, Cody Varn, Clinton, Deshaun Tate, Gaffney, Cameron Thomason of Greenville, Quashawn Greenlee, T.L. Hanna, Dylan Threadgill, Broome, Kevius Barnes of Lancaster. Quarterbacks, Colton Bailey, Chapman, Jordan Morgan, Eastside. Running backs, Amir Abrams of Newberry, DJ Twitty of Chapman. So the North has 2 Mr. Football candidates on its roster. And receivers, Manoleto Rapley of Abbeville, Stephen Gilmore Jr., South Point, Trey Gray of Wren, Zion Walker, York, DeMaje Foster, Spartanburg, Jordan Starks, Northwestern, John Irby, Chester, Bryson Glenn, Dixie.
On the South, defensive backs Tylee Canty of C.E. Murray, D'Angelo Knight of Fort Dorchester, Dutch Forks Alex Smith at defensive back, Keandre Tappan of Scotts Branch, Kendall Brooks of Swansea, Crestwood's Shedrick Irvin, Jalen Williams of Dillon, Dejon Goss of Carvers Bay, also at defensive back. On the D-line, Kwame Livingston of North Myrtle Beach, Torian Stevenson of Branchville, Carvers Bay's Emmanuel Tatum, Quincy Frederick of Edisto, Ronald Summers of Woodland, James Middleton of Fort Dorchester, and Irmo's Dalen Guess at defensive line, Blake Jenkins-Williams of Berkeley, also named. At kicker, Taete McMurray of Berkeley also in there. Micah Bryant as well at linebacker from Hemingway, 6'2", 205-pounder. Nick Hughes of Bamberg Gerhardt. Malik Jacobs of Lower Richland, Joey McRae of Marlborough County, Keandre Jones of Spring Valley, Jalen Moody of Conway, also at linebacker. On the offensive line, Gilbert's Erickson Abney, Trey Phoenix of Wade Hampton, Lucas Parton of Conway, Dawson Dove of Dillon, Tommy Schubert of Carolina Forest, Malik Harkness of Lugoff Elgin, Jarrell Moore of Brooklyn Casey, Noah Henderson of Marlborough County, also an offensive line. At QB, Corey Fields of Baptist Hill and Colleton County's Craig Grant Jr., Quincy Mitchell at running back of Hanahan, Carrad Class of North Myrtle Beach, Jay Washington of Dreer, Chris Copeland of Cane Bay, and Michael Lee of Barnwell at running back. Tight end and long snapper, John Eric Kirkland of White Knoll. At wide receiver, Tavon Higgins of Lower Richland. From your alma mater, Latta, Kendall Moultrie,
home of champions,
Keon Clary of White Knoll, Chapin's Xavion Gordon, and Kobe Perry of Edisto round out the wide receiving corps.
Very good. December 9th at Myrtle Beach. And looking forward to it as always. We'll have the game for you here on South Carolina Radio Network on a terrific lineup of stations for you. You can order tickets now. They're $15 until November 24th. Then it goes up to $20. Go to the website, touchstoneenergybowl.com. That's touchstoneenergybowl.com. You can order your tickets there. And you can also go and vote for the finalists for Mr. Football. You can vote at scliving.coop/football. That's scliving.coop, C-O-O-P. Wait a minute, that's too many O's. C-O-O-P, C-O-O-P.
Okay.
Some of us can spell corn.
Not C-O-O-O-P. It's just C-O-O-P /football. And you can vote for Mr. Football here in South Carolina. It's always a tough vote because the five guys are good in many ways on and off the field. And we'll talk more with David Shelton about all this coming up and also look back on this past Friday night of high school football here in South Carolina.
A couple of upsets, a couple of very interesting games last week while you were out of the orifice, so to speak. It was a very interesting week of football.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And, we're coming to the close of the regular season. You got parts of August and then September and then October for your regular season. And then the playoffs pretty much take up November, and the championship weekend is that, well, you have championship games on the Thanksgiving weekend Friday, and then championship weekend the following weekend. So the playoffs will be here, and the intensity and the interest, of course, in high school football will continue to climb. When we come back, more on the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Game. We'll have the two coaches with us to tell us about their two teams and their plans moving forward with them for the game. That's coming up next here on Sports Talk. All right, welcome back into Sports Talk, everybody. South Carolina Radio Network on a Monday night, the day that we get the rosters for the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star football game. We just went through them with you. Now let's welcome in the two head coaches for this year's game. For the North, from Woodmont High School, Coach Jet Turner. And from the South, from Carvers Bay High School, Coach Nate Thompson. You know, Coach Thompson, by the way, this is all part of a conspiracy to get in your head here before you play Latta this Friday night. So, yeah, I'm just trying to throw you off your game just a little bit.
I hear you. Well, one good thing is that, Latta's going to be Latta, and we're going to be us.
That's true.
It's always a fight.
No doubt, no doubt. Coach Turner, how are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
We're doing great, and thanks to the both of you for joining us tonight. And Jet, let's just talk about putting together your roster, you and your coaches, some of the things that you were looking for as you went over your regions and selected the guys that you put together for this team.
Well, the first thing, I'm very blessed. I had a great staff that did a great job picking players, and so it was actually a great experience. A lot of work, but got to see a lot of great football players. And we started kind of way back in the summer, and just kind of as we got film, put pieces together. And our coaches did a great job of picking players they felt could be great football players and maybe do more than one thing. So as we get them down there and kind of see what they can do, kind of get them where they can fit in. And so we got a lot of kids that can do multiple things and feel like got a really good football team and a lot of great character kids. Our coaches do due diligence checking, seeing what kind of kids they were in the classroom. And so we're excited about the group and looking forward to going down there and getting to know them and play a football game.
And Nate, for you, when you were scouring the rosters and looking at the video of the players in your region, what stood out to you the most about the kind of talent you had to choose from?
Well, I think we had a really good stock of talent, to choose from. The coaches, I want to thank the coaches for, taking the time and sending in films and that nature. And also, I want to thank my coaches because I tell you what, we spent some hours on end and some arguments on end. But the key we had to really look at is that, we wanted to make sure that we had kids from every conference, make sure that every region is represented. And also to make sure that, we pick the best kid possible that, that really exhibit, what we're looking for. And that's, that was really what we were really thinking about at that time.
Coach Thompson, what can you tell us about the two gentlemen who are representing your school on your roster?
Well, that was a tough sell. They're really good kids. I think Emmanuel Tatum has been with me for 3 years, and he's really came in a transfer from North Carolina, and he's really fit into our program quite well. And the other one is Goss, and Goss is 6'5", and he is a good free safety. He also is a good receiver. And when you play in 2A ball, you play kids both sides of the ball, and he excels on both sides. But Dijon has really come full circle. He's been with me for 3 years as well.
Talking with the coaches of the North-South teams for this year, the Touchstone Energy Bowl, Jet Turner and Nate Thompson. Jet, looking at your team, you got a couple of finalists there for Mr. Football in your quarterback from Chapman, who's an outstanding player, had a great career to this point. Colton Bailey, and then Amir Abrams, the running back from Newberry, who set all kind of records there. And I mean, it's got to be kind of neat to have players like that to coach when you get down to Myrtle Beach and be able to build some offense around those two guys.
No, it certainly is. I was fortunate or misfortunate, whatever you say. I played when I was at Broome, played against Colton Bailey and Amir Abrams, and both just special talents and super kids off the field as well. And we were excited when they were both still available, and so it worked out really well for us. But I'm looking forward to those kids and getting to know them and seeing what they can do. But just feel very fortunate to have those two on our roster.
Coach Thompson, who are you most looking forward to see on your squad?
Well, I'm looking forward to see our quarterbacks and our running backs. They've really been, picking up their pace, looking good in all their games. And it was really a tough sell. I mean, there were several good quarterbacks, and those two guys really, really out. Running backs, I think we couldn't have done any better. We really got some really good backs. And on defense, I think the defensive line and those defensive backs, I think my coaches did a really, really good job of grinding it out, looking at film and saying, hey, these are the kids we want to see. So we're kind of excited about that. The main thing is we're just excited to be in here. One thing I got to say is, me and Coach Turner's been together for quite a while. And 2009, we both coached in Shrapnel together.
Okay. So you know each other's thinking well. Now, Nate, what kind of offense are you going to put in?
We're gonna spread it out a little bit. We're gonna try to make the run at us, and we're gonna try to get them tired and wear them out. We're gonna be throwing it everywhere we can, and cause I think we got quarterbacks that can move real good in the pocket. And we're gonna be running the ball, but we're gonna be throwing it too. So we're gonna try to get a little balance of run and throwing. But basically, we want to stay in the spread.
Mm-hmm. And Jet, what are you gonna do?
Well, they give you an outline of what you can do. So we're going to be gun, one back, four wide, and hopefully be 50-50 run pass. So they limit you because if I had my way, we'd be in flex bone running triple option. But they not.
No, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Well, if you know each other so well, do you have any trick plays you got in your back pocket?
Nah, none that I'm going to talk about tonight.
Uh-oh.
Hey, listen, both of you still got a lot of work to do with your own teams this year, so best of luck, and look forward to being down there with you for North-South Week. And I know one thing, the kids, besides getting to play football and focus on that for 5 days, they're going to have a great time down there. There's no doubt about that. The committee does a terrific job of feeding and entertaining and housing these guys for a week.
No question. That's first-class operation.
Yeah. Well, listen, you guys, good luck to you. Well, Nate, I'm sorry. I can't wish you a whole lot of luck this week, but after this week, I wish you nothing but the best, okay?
Oh, that sounds good.
And Jet, same to you, and thanks to both of you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's that unbiased nature we
That's
always
right.
get from Sports Talk.
Well, we're an unbiased group here, and
except when it comes to Latta, apparently.
Well, I mean, I don't want Carver's. Well, I do want Carver's Bay to lose, but they can lose by a little bit. Okay, we got upset by Mullins Friday night. That was not good. That was a most untimely and unexpected defeat.
My Wolves lost last night or last Friday night.
Did they really? Yeah, they're an up and down team. They're an up and down club.
But the Bishops came back and won. They scored twice in the last 45 seconds. Maybe I got to get back on the Bishops bandwagon. Maybe.
I don't think they want you.
They don't.
Yeah, I think, knowing you the way I've come to know you over the last, what is this, October?
About 3 months.
Yeah, I think you're better suited for Whitmire than Bishop England.
What the hell's that supposed
You'll
to
just
mean?
have to go visit
Well, the
the two
bishops have
places.
excommunicated him anyway.
Yeah. Hey, our poll question on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, has USC closed the gap on Clemson this season?
From like 50 points to what?
Well, just have they closed the gap? Are they catching? They're going to have to catch Clemson.
Right.
62% say yes, 37% say no.
Well, I think that's more indicative of how far the gap was. They might have closed it. I wouldn't say they're close yet.
Well, we're going to find out in November, but this is fun to talk about here a month out. We're a month out from the game.
I would say this from a talent standpoint, no. From an attitude standpoint, yes.
You got to believe you belong before you can actually belong.
Yes.
So whose attitude? I mean, Clemson's still very confident in itself.
Yeah, South Carolina has more swag.
South Carolina had no attitude at that point last year.
Are you saying they got a little swagger going?
They know the system better.
Yeah. Okay. We'll be right back.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Thanks again to the coaches for being with us tonight here on Sports Talk. Always enjoying talking to the coaches. Don't forget to buy your tickets for the Touchstone Energy Bowl, the North-South game, December 9th, $15 right now until November 24th. It'll be in Myrtle Beach. It's really a fun event. Having been around it for, over 20 years now, if not more than that, and around the Shrine Bowl for an equal amount of time, if not more. I mean, both games serve a purpose, and both games are worth supporting. We call this All-Star season in South Carolina. Once the championship weekend is done, then we have our fortnight of All-Star season between the North-South and the Shrine Bowl. And it's great in our state that you've got, between those two games, you've got roughly about 120 some odd football players who get an All-Star game experience and some extra exposure.
You want to give some more airtime to the question we posed before the break? Has USC caught up to Clemson or closed the gap?
Absolutely, we can throw that out there.
Because I thought we had kind of struck chord because we had seen some phone lines lit up. And again, I think it's more indicative of where you thought the gap was before this season between USC and Clemson.
Well, if you go back to the game last November, it was a huge gap.
But I don't think that necessarily indicates the gap. I mean, yeah, you had one that made a national championship and one that barely made a bowl game last year. And granted, that's a very far chasm. And yes, they probably have closed the gap a bit. But what really entices a closing of the gap to me is kind of going back to what Pro said, is that if you feel like you belong in a game on the same field as them, then you've closed the gap significantly. I just don't know until we see them play on the field together whether or not that gap has truly been closed to a way that I think Gamecock fans would be satisfied.
Well, there's one thing to changing and closing a mental gap. It's another thing altogether to changing and closing a physical gap. And last year, Clemson had the big edge in both categories over South Carolina. Clemson knew it was better and knew it was going to win. It was just a matter. And South Carolina didn't help itself they actually came out and stopped Clemson on the first series, remember, and blocked the field goal, and then turned around and gave it right back with the interception, and then quickly got in the end zone. Clemson did, and then that opened the floodgates, and it was Katie bar the door at that point. And I think USC completely lost its spirit. Also, the Gamecocks got out of character. Remember, they had Jake Bentley come to the sideline to get every play instead of and the explanation by Muschamp after that was they wanted to slow the pace of the game down. But I think that just added to the uneasiness that Bentley was obviously feeling out there the entire game. He was totally out of his comfort zone in that game. Now, remember, he was still a young quarterback then, had only been starting since the middle of the season and was still just a high school kid. And here he is thrown out there at Death Valley, a place maybe he dreamed about playing at some point in his life as a Tiger. And then having the nation's best defense coming at you and an offense that really couldn't do anything.
Well, the key point is with a young quarterback especially, you don't have to hit him a few times. And then, Jake Bentley would drop back to pass and thought 20 Clemson players were in the backfield because those ghosts start to come up. But also, Corn, it's not only the talent, it's circumstances. Mm-hmm. Clemson's defense is very dominant when they get a lead. Notice that when Syracuse stayed close, all the pages in their playbook were still in play. They didn't have to rush. They could run. They didn't have to rush anything and throw on every down. They could run the football. They could pass it. So they kept Clemson's defense behind schedule the whole game. And if you can do that and keep the game close, then it was Clemson who panicked with that fake punt that gave Syracuse the yardage they needed to kick the winning field goal.
There were more busts than a bad blackjack dealer on the back end of that defensive secondary. More busts than a bad blackjack dealer. Wow. I know. I was working on that one.
That's a good one. That's really – I could come up with something better than that, but I won't because it's off color.
Okay.
I got you. I'm there.
Yeah.
Been a Playboy magazine?
See, I said I wasn't going to go there. You went ahead and did something like that. That's on you, okay? When Uncle Learfield calls you up, it's going to be on you. Not on me. Where are we going?
Joe,
Stevie
Stevie
in West Columbia.
Stevie in West Columbia.
Stevie in West Columbia. Hello, Stevie. How are you?
I'm Stevie, but I've never lived in West Columbia in my life.
Oh, this is Cockett, who likes to go by Speedy everywhere else except on this show where you don't get multiple names. You can have multiple personalities, but you only get one name. Okay, Cockett.
Yes. I just wanted to say, I'm not sold up on these on this Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp until he won the SEC conference. Until then, they have succeeded by far my highest expectations, because I only said that they're only going to win no more than 5 games. So far, I'm about to ready to eat some crow on the plate.
Yeah.
But
do you like your crow deep fried or do you like it broiled?
It doesn't matter. I ate a lot of them when the boys got that far, because I never got that. Gave the men's basketball coach a lot of high expectations either. But yeah, this week they got Vandy. Vandy can have everything from the kitchen sink, not playing, but they always upbeat for the Gamecocks. I just hope that we go out and be a little bit more aggressive on offense. Our defense doing pretty good, but if we still keep this team hanging around for less than 3 or 10 points, or 6 to 10, whatever, you give a team like that so much of life, so much of hope. Let's put this team out. Don't sit there and wait around, and put the second string out there. Give your quarterback some time enough to study some film, because we got to go up there and play them Bulldogs. And the way the Bulldogs are playing, they're going to need Moses to help them. But other than that, very impressed with the chicken. But I want to say this to you, Phil, and I want to say it all to the poll. I want y'all to get in the locker room and cry together, because your football team and the pro football team and my Cowboys, so far, we all stinking up the earth. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Wow.
Did he say his Cowboys were stinking up?
Yeah, apparently.
But
so.
they just mopped up San Francisco yesterday.
As long as they stay in the courtroom and keep Ezekiel Elliott playing.
And here's the thing. Ralph Webb is a very serious threat for them on the ground. But they were able to hold their own against John Kelly at Tennessee, who I think is a better back. Yet what happened against Kentucky happened as well. So, again, will the real South Carolina rush defense please stand up? All
right, quickly, we go to Jody in West Columbia. Jody, welcome to Sports Talk.
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I've only got one question.
Okay.
Why is it that all of these wonderful Tri-Mo, North-South people and all like that decide what type of offense to be run? Just like Turner said, why can't we run the flex bone or the option or the power eye?
Oh, well, very simple. They want to sell tickets. They want people to come into the game, and they want a wide open offense. They want passes. They want catches. They want touchdowns. They don't want to grind it out 3 yards in a cloud of dust football game. They want
football.
Well, that's what it's become. Yeah, it's become that.
I mean,
they want to track me.
Pass option, they want to see more touchdowns for it. They actually don't want to see real good football. But okay.
They want to see.
Thank you. I mean, that's just what football. But don't blame them. I mean,
it's the way the game is gone.
It's where it is. You watch the NFL, and it's all just throw and catch, and
pitch and catch.
Yeah, and
we're gonna pitch and catch. We're gonna throw it around the field. It's like the old Steve Spurrier thing.
Fullbacks are dinosaurs. Tight ends are becoming dinosaurs unless you can flex out and catch the ball.
But it's interesting how things are different, but they're the same, because some of these plays you see is the option, but it's in front of you instead of pitching behind you.
On the USC Clemson Gap, 3 Dingo writes me on Twitter. Gamecocks have won 5 out of the last 8. Deshaun Watkins, Chad Morris are gone. Gap is
Sean Watson.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Why he said Watkins? I don't know why he said that. He wrote
They're
that.
thinking of Sammy Watkins.
He said they've won 5 out of the last 8. Watson and Chad Morris are gone. Gap is not what people pretend it is.
No, that defensive front it is.
We're going to find out in a month. But again, it's if the memory of last year's game and is absolutely completely dominant that Clemson was. And you can only go by your head-to-head matchups on an annual basis. Yes. That's the indicator, and that showed a wide gap at that particular time.
That's why this rivalry is so interesting.
It is. Top of the hour.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
That's a big number to you?
That's a big number.
That's a big number for you?
That is. Oh, is that just chump change to you?
You don't roll in the same circle that I do when those numbers get rolling.
That's okay. I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
I roll in my own circle.
I understand.
I'm the only one in my circle.
I
have no other circles.
That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I have no other circles interconnected to my circle.
You could take a headache, but you can't take a stab to the chest.
This is
it doesn't
true.
quite have the chest.
All right, let me do recruiting, and then we're going to welcome in Zach Willis for First and 10 with Zach Willis tonight. A lot of things to catch up on. Defensive end KJ Henry, Clemens, North Carolina, went to Virginia Tech over the weekend.
Hated it.
He's also been to Georgia over the weekend. Now, don't say that because people hear you say that, and they say, gee, did you hear what he just said? Anyway, he loved it. Of course he did. Went to Georgia, loved it. Next officials, Clemson this weekend. His coach tells us he will go to South Carolina for the Florida weekend, November 11th. Still has Alabama to schedule, and he'll make his announcement on December 20th. Dax Holyfield, linebacker, Shelby, North Carolina, also went to Virginia Tech over the weekend. How did he like it?
I'm sure he loved it.
That was his fourth. He's been to USC, North Carolina, and Florida State. His last will be Stanford in January. Plus, it's likely he'll take more unofficials to his favorites. Defensive lineman Rick Sandish, USC target, Concord, North Carolina, was at Virginia Tech Saturday. How did he like it?
Loved it.
He's also been to USC and North Carolina unofficially. He plans to release his official visit schedule soon. One that is certain is the Michigan-Ohio State game in the Big House.
I'm sure that's not going to be any fun at all.
2019 defensive end Curtis Fan, Twin Cities, Georgia, has an impressive early offer list. USC, Clemson, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, NC State, Florida State. He said USC, Clemson, and Auburn are recruiting him hard. They like how he's physical and is a good pass rusher. He was at Georgia Tech Saturday, hopes to get to USC, Clemson, and Auburn later in the season. He camped at USC, Clemson, and Georgia last summer. USC was his first offer. USC offered 2019 running back Ches Malusi, Naples, Florida. He also has offers from the likes of Notre Dame, Kentucky, Virginia, Michigan, Arizona, Boston College, Southern Cal, Miami. USC quarterback target Sam Howell, Monroe, North Carolina, was offered by Vanderbilt. Offensive lineman Jordan McFadden of Dorman, who did not make it to Virginia Tech over the weekend, will take his official visit to Virginia Tech this coming weekend. How do you predict he will enjoy that visit?
I'm sure he'll hate it.
He's going to Clemson officially for the Citadel game.
You've turned this into a bit. I love it.
Well, no, I'm just trying to include you.
I understand.
Basketball, 6'6", Zion Williamson of Spartanburg Day went to Duke over the weekend. Do you think he liked it?
He liked it better than he liked his visit to UCLA, apparently.
Well,
this never happened.
He's also been to Kansas and Kentucky, unofficially to Clemson and USC. Adam Zagoria said Williamson is no longer considering UCLA, and thus he will not take his official visit there this weekend.
Too bad.
Keep a close watch out now because USC and Clemson have home football games Saturday. If he pops up at one of those, that could be pretty wild.
Interesting.
Anyway, that's the story on him. He just came off his official visit to Duke. And USC women's target, 5'11", Kristen Williams of Little Rock, Arkansas, is down to USC and UConn. Plans to announce November 10th. Your pick is?
Whoever wins the head-to-head matchup.
Well, that's not till later.
I know.
She's signing way before then. So your prediction would be?
The SEC school.
South Carolina?
Yes.
Why did you say the SEC school?
Because she's grown up around the SEC being in Arkansas.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. That makes sense. But she's got the mind of a woman, so you just don't know if that makes sense or not. You can't figure out a woman.
There's the cheap shot right there.
That wasn't a cheap shot. I mean, you can't figure them out.
But looking at your recruiting news, it seems that 3 of South Carolina's targets defensively, Virginia Tech had that plan, didn't they? To have all 3 of them there together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
All right, that's it for recruiting tonight. Check it out on the website, SportsTalkSC.com, on Twitter, #ST Recruiting. Let's welcome in for First and 10, a man who knows a thing or two about recruiting in this state in particular. We welcome in Coach Zach Willis to Sports Talk. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. And if I've ever heard a Cam Newton comment, you just made.
Am I wrong? Of course, now the difference, you have a wife that can truly beat you up, so I'm not so sure you should go there.
I'm not going to touch that with a 40-foot ball.
Yeah, absolutely. So, did you watch football, or did you do like a lot of people and get away from it for a weekend?
I did a little bit of both. You know, I'm a big NASCAR fan, too, so I had to watch the race. And I watched a little bit of football, mostly college. I'm a college guy. I watch college football. I got a good dose of that.
Yeah. Well, we'll get some thoughts on the weekend from you coming up. But let's talk about first the Gamecocks, then we'll get to the Tigers. What do you think during the off week when they could work on themselves, as teams like to do? When Will Muschamp was working on South Carolina, what do you think he was working on this past week?
Number one, universally get healthy. That's number one. So somebody's got a nick or a ding, you get them as much rest and therapy as you can. But then after that, it's offensive line and special teams for the Gamecocks, I think. Those are the two priorities.
Kelly Bryant said that he is good to go, but he says his ankle is 80 to 85%. He has not run on it until today. Zach, I'm still very wary about putting him in there and planning on him being the starter. What are your thoughts about his availability and his viability against Georgia Tech?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate you on the Astros beating Phil's Yankees.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, that was.
Now, I like Yankees.
No reason to get off the topic here, Zach. No reason.
I apologize. Phil, don't cut me off, man. I want to question, but I saw Will wearing that shirt, and I had to say something. My wife is a huge Yankees fan, so now I probably won't get any supper. But anyway, I think I'm going to tell you, man, great players, you can't trust what they tell you about their health. If you're listening to Kelly Bryant, you might as well be, you know, Kelly Bryant's going to be the best used car salesman in the state of South Carolina right now because he wants to play. All the great ones do. That's got to come down to the training staff. They've got to make that determination, and they've got to shoot Coach Swing straight on what's going on there. I would start the young guy. If they could win without Kelly going in, I'd keep him out until I knew for a fact he was 100% all the way around because the ankle got the concussion. I mean, we all know that. We talked about that last time. I mean, if he was 85%, Syracuse at 85% ain't real good.
So you would still keep him out of this Georgia Tech game?
Yeah, I'd start the other kid and see if I could beat them because Clemson's good enough if they game plan right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To beat these teams without him. Because they rely on what they did to Auburn. They basically didn't have a quarterback in the Auburn game. Their defense, Auburn's turned out to be pretty decent too.
Mm-hmm.
11 sacks. I'm saying, lean on the defense, running game, and a young quarterback who's been there over. He's a redshirt guy. Let him go and see if he can get it done. If he can't, your defense will keep you close, and you bring Kelly in. And you streamline that game plan to make sure he's protected while he's in there. And I'm sure they've done all that.
Zach, you talked about teams using that body, and you got to get healthy. Not only those injured, but those with bumps and bruises. But for my feeling, just as a fan, as a coach, a bye week would scare me to death because players are creatures of habit, and you don't know how they're going to show up. For instance, I'm sitting there looking for a great Kentucky-Mississippi State game, and Kentucky comes off their bye week as flat as a pancake.
That's on the coach. I mean, here's the deal, Pro, and I mean, this is a great observation. You always have them. Here's the thing. You go on a 3-day schedule. The first week you go laid back. You focus on fundamentals. The offensive coordinator should have a list of things to work on. Defensive coordinator, special teams the same. But when Sunday hits, whenever you see those kinds of kids the first time after the open Saturday, you got to come in there and you got to be up there rear end 12 with both feet. And you got to wake them up. You got to wake them up and get them ready to play and prep them early in the week. And they should be walking and going, dang, what's wrong with Coach Swinger? What's going on with Coach Mustang?
All right, hang on, Zach. Hang on. We got to come hit a break. We'll come right back to you. Zach Willis, 1st and 10 here on Sports Talk.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
And that's what we're doing with Zach Willis, First and 10, with the coach, Zach Willis, every Monday night here on Sports Talk. First up, and actually he gets a double 10 because we've expanded him to 20 minutes here on Sports Talk to give us time to break down the Gamecocks and the Tigers a little bit more. So talking about Kelly Bryant, we talked about what you thought South Carolina would be doing in self-reflection in the off week. What about Clemson as far as getting Kelly Bryant healthy? We understand that. But in terms of on the field, X's and O's coming off the loss to Syracuse, what kind of things do you think Sweeney and the coaching staff focused on in looking at Clemson during the off week?
I think a contingency plan for the absence of their first quarter of Kelly Bryant. I think offensively, Tony and Jeff are working on that with the offensive plan, the game plan of what to do, how to prevent it, how to have a contingency for it. You want one for everything. Bear Bryant used to say, have a plan for everything. That's the best philosophy I've ever heard. Defensively, I think they got to look at their back end, at their coverages, and just work those because they had some serious busts in those, and maybe even change a coverage or two, in my opinion.
Looking at South Carolina, Zach, they going up against Ralph Webb this week. Now, they've seen some pretty good backs. They've seen Kentucky's running attack, which they struggled against. They were able to contain John Kelly at Tennessee. Where's the reality of the South Carolina rush defense, and how do you think they'll fare against Ralph Webb, who hasn't had the kind of numbers we're accustomed to seeing from him this year?
You have to give them respect, but, I mean, they played better competition, period, Will. And I think what you got to do if you're Muschamp to say, look, we got a chance to do something here and seize the moment. And you got to treat this game like it's a Super Bowl. From a head coaching standpoint, psychologically, for all the reasons we've already discussed, and Ralph Webb's got to be the focal point. Stop the run and you win the game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, and they can clinch a bowl bid with a victory.
Yep.
They'll be a 4-2 in the league with 2 games to go. We've talked about this earlier tonight. I mean, there's a potential scenario there where the Gamecocks could actually win the East. I mean, things would have to happen, and they would have to beat Georgia and Florida along the way to do it. But, I mean, that's why you play. You got to have hope. And if I'm the coaching staff there, I'm pumping that to the players, 24 hours a day. There is hope here if you take care of your business.
That little 4-letter word's the most powerful word other than faith, and that's where hope leads to in sports. And they've got it. And if he pumps that, they're going to play good Saturday. They'll beat Florida. Okay? If they're believing in themselves and they keep Bentley healthy, the defense is moving forward. They have progressed. We talked about it earlier. You nailed it, and that's what's got to happen now. They can turn the corner and go into Athens, and I'm not saying they're going to win that game, but they've got the team. If they can get their offensive line to just hang on, and if they come in healthier, who knows what they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But they put themselves in this position, and you got to tip your hat to them. They're 5-2. Who would have thought that?
Mm-hmm.
The weapons you look at that normally I guess a coach doesn't want to use, Zach, is for his team is anger and adversity. You would rather not go through that, but South Carolina recovering from the just debilitating injuries they had, especially on offense, and the fact that they got manhandled at Texas A&M late. I don't think I've seen the same team since what happened in College Station.
No, they decided they weren't going to get pushed around anymore, and they started being booked. And that's the nature of football. It's organized combat. And our world today, people don't want you guys don't mind me saying, that's what it is. You're either going to kick his butt or he's going to kick yours.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to whip him or he's going to whip you. And they've got that mentality. I think Will's that kind of guy based on what I've seen. And his personality starting to show in his team. And let's all hope that continues because that'll mean great things down the road for him, I believe.
As far as we have our poll question up here, and Corn has crafted it in a way that I think allows us to think a little bit. Has USC closed the gap with Clemson? I think that at least means, you wonders where you thought the gap was before this season. Do you think USC has closed the book or closed the gap on Clemson, Zach?
Well, I'll tell you this, we're going to find out. Huh. That's what I love about football. I don't know. I'll say this, I was taught you can win 4 games a year where they play, just going to play great. You can get them to play great 4 times. 2 times you can use emotion and profile up fear, well, not fear, but anger and adversity. He needs to hold that for that game. Okay, that game is everything in that state, and if you fail to recognize that as a coach, you won't be there long. But they got to find a way not to just to compete with Clemson, but to beat them, and that is a tall order. And I'm not saying they'll do it this year. Do I think they close the gap? We'll find out. I'm not going to go there yet. Now that crowd down the road's pretty good, and until somebody whips them soundly with a healthy quarterback, I'm not going to say that. But South Carolina has definitely improved.
All right, let me ask you this now. Having been a coach in our state, having played in our states, we've got the Shrine Bowl rosters out now today, the North-South Touchstone Energy Bowl rosters were announced. So we've got all our all-stars for the state selected and in place. As a coach in our state, back when you were on the assistant level and the head coaching level, what was it like during those all-star practice weeks and all-star game weeks? I know the rules have changed now to where coaches can't be there to watch practice anymore, and that's one of the stupidest rules ever created.
Yeah, it is.
But what especially when you were at Newberry and you recruited the state so hard and would sign 45 or 50 in-state players a year. I mean, what was it? How much did you enjoy these 2 weeks between the North-South and the Shrine Bowl?
Oh my gosh, man, those are my favorite 2 weeks of the year. And then you had the state championships right before that. We would go up there, then we go to the beach, then we go up to Rock Hill. It was in Spartanburg. They moved it around, but it was a lot of fun. All the college coaches got to go, and it drew fans there because college coaches were there. The players were excited. It was like Christmas time for football. I mean, it was awesome feeling. They really wrecked it. The NCAA wrecked it when they made that rule, and I don't understand it. I don't understand a lot of the things that they do. I don't understand what happened at Chapel Hill either, and I won't go that way. But it's just remarkable to me. They can swallow an elephant and strain out a gnat. It's unbelievable.
That's a McCall saying right there, my man. That's hey, by the way, did you might not have noticed this, but London Johnson from Charleston Southern is the big South.
Okay.
Yeah, but the point I'm getting to here, his hometown is actually Clio.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I coached actually the year before I moved to Kentucky to take another head coaching job. I helped coach LJ from London, and he's a great young man and a heck of a player.
How do you
go ahead?
How do you distribute all the time? I mean, that's probably the biggest challenge for a coach in that regard. Is you got to make sure everybody's happy.
Well, I mean, I honestly, the kids are great. They're happy to be in the game. You can't say I couldn't say a whole lot even back then to them other than a way, but we'd stand at the gate when they came on the field, shake their hand, say, "What's up?" Give them a fist bump, and they went on. And when they came off, we'd do the same thing, and that was it. It really wasn't. That's the thing. It wasn't a huge advantage, and I don't know why they changed it and did what they did, because that's all you could do is just bump into them and say, "Hey, what's up?" And that's it.
Yeah.
So you spoke to everyone you could. You made sure the recruiting coaches were there. Clemson had the best thing in the world. Clyde Wren did it when he was with Danny Ford. They would have a ton of Clemson people there, ringing the Shrine Bowl especially, with Clemson apparel on.
Oh, yeah.
So everywhere those kids looked, they saw a tiger paw. That was probably the neatest thing I'd ever heard of or seen.
Well, I can top that from that story because they used to arrange to get targets that they were still recruiting as roommates of players they already had committed.
I wasn't going to say that one.
Well, I mean, it was one of the tricks of the trade that they got done, and it resulted in Danny Ford owning the state of North Carolina and South Carolina for the most part in recruiting back then. Hey, Zach, we've enjoyed it, my friend, and we'll talk to you next Monday night and see what happens this weekend.
You got it, guys.
Take care. Zach Willis, 1st and 10, with us here on Sports Talk, and we'll be right back. All right, in just a moment, David Shelton will join us here on Sports Talk. We'll get his thoughts on the selections for the Touchstone Energy North-South game, who was not picked, maybe who should have been, just like he did for the Shrine Bowl. Plus, of course, a look back at a Friday night of high school football. But today, Kelly Bryant, Clemson quarterback, met with the media.
We haven't heard from him since after the Wake Forest game. Remember, he didn't speak week before Syracuse, didn't speak after the game because he was concussed, but he spoke today to assembled media at Clemson.
I'm feeling really good. It was good, the rest a little bit last weekend. Just sit back and watch some other people, and just to get back. Get my body up under me. It's been a long season so far. We're in the middle of it. So head wise, I feel back to normal. Not really has been bothering me. Ankle's feeling good. It's feeling better than how I was feeling last week, but still going through treatment. To get it back right for Saturday.
A lot has been made about how good condition he was going into the Syracuse game. It seemed like there was one there early where you rolled it right. Ordinarily, you might have just taken off at the first down, but you passed it instead. Were you going for this time?
I felt good going to the game, but it just got was in the game situation. I feel like I tweaked it a little bit, so that made me limp a little bit more. So it's just one of those things where you just hate it happen. Just learn from it. Just try to get my ankle back 100%.
Did you get knocked out on that particular play? Do you ever,
Yeah, I hit my head really bad. It was unfortunate. Just pretty much like you said, just got my head hit on the turf and just was knocked out for a little second, then just regained consciousness, right afterwards. That's probably the biggest hit I've taken, throughout my career.
Was it scared trying to figure out what was going on about?
It was scary. I'd say just looking at it, I was just watching little clips of it, just me laying there like, dang, I was getting some good sleep. That one wasn't like the best sleep that I got, but it was scary, but just something to be aware of, going forward.
Have you been cleared from concussion protocol, or what was that process like?
Yeah, just different tests, the doctors back there had me going through, and just wanting to make sure everything was right with me, and just try not to rush it, and just taking one day at a time.
Did you have any cleared?
They're going to get ready as normal to start on Saturday.
Yes, that's the plan. Yes, sir.
You have been cleared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it weird for you to go on? Is you're trying to maybe, I don't want to say shake the confidence off, but you've been out of your routine, I guess, for the past 10 days. It
is weird, like physically, but like mentally, the coaches. I didn't practice last week, so the coach was right there. They had me right there, with the offense, going through the game plan, making sure that I know what's going on, what to prepare for, and all the adjustment that we're gonna be making.
How's the ankle feel?
It feels good. I ran on a little bit last week, so I'm eager to run on it today. So I'll be back. It's my first day back practicing, so just have to see how I go from there. But it's feeling good.
What do you see with Georgia Tech defensively looking at them on film?
It was just the 3 years I've been here. Just seems like each year they get better. They got a veteran group, a defense coming back. They're a team, a spunky team that got a lot of momentum going. So on Saturday they're gonna bring. We're gonna get the best shots. So we're gonna have to be ready.
I feel like they kind of feel unappreciated nationally because they're so close to being undefeated and looking for a big statement win.
Oh, definitely. They, like you said, they're very close to being undefeated. Those the losses that they had could have been the other way around. We could have been looking at playing against an undefeated team. So they're a dangerous team. So we're just gonna have to be ready.
How far back after those wrestlers your ankle feel? 80%, 90%?
I feel like 80, 85, around in that range.
At what point against Syracuse did you? Was there like a certain point when you had tweaked it or got hurt? Do you remember the exact?
It was the one when it was play action. I ran to the sideline. I just felt a little hobble still there, so it was just right around in there.
That is Kelly Bryant. He said it was about 80 to 85% of that ankle, but like I said, hadn't run before Monday. I'm still curious. I would say I'm skeptical even about whether or not he's ready to go on Saturday.
All right, we shall see. Let's welcome in David Shelton. Talk a little more high school with you tonight, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could be saving a whole lot of money, even if you've received a quote before. Rates are now more competitive than ever, so get a no-obligation quote today at favrates.com. All right, David, I know you've been looking over the selections for the North-South game. What surprised you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm getting
I'm in my old age. I'm getting kind of fed up with the All-Star game rosters because it's just not an All-Star game anymore. It's everybody gets to play. Every region gets to get a guy in, and every coach gets to take 2 players, and it's really getting kind of frustrating. But good for the guys that made it, and tough for the guys that didn't. And I've been saying this for a few years, and people just say I'm nuts, but I'm ready to get rid of the limit 2 per team thing. If the whole idea is to put together the best team, then if Fort Dorchester or Chapman or Dutch Fork or Burns, any of those teams, they got 4 guys for the Shrine Bowl, then take them. If they got 4 guys for North-South, take them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can tell you right now, Fort Dorchester's got 6 to 8 guys that are going to play college football. So, a couple of those guys aren't going to get to play in these all-star games. So it is what it is. And, you just kind of get the rosters and you just kind of shake your head and move on. It's nothing you can do about it. They're not going to change the rules because I say so.
All right, to Friday night passed, and Dutch Fork took care of business against Spring Valley. Pretty good ball game, 34-19. I guess it was a pretty good ball game. But Dutch Fork gets a huge region win over Spring Valley, first loss for the Vikings.
Yeah, the reason that thing is huge is because the state championship, lower state will go through Dutch Fork if they continue to win. The way the bracket set up, that region winner was going to get home field throughout, as long as they're winning.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to think Dutch Fork is gonna be deep into the playoffs. I guess anything could happen with an upset, but that's why that win's so big, because somebody's going to have to go and beat them on their home field to advance to the playoffs.
The 2 that surprised me in the upstate, David, were the Gaffney-Burns contest and the Spartanburg-Boiling Springs. What were you able to decipher from those 2 results?
Yeah, the Gaffney game, that did surprise me a little bit. Burns just didn't play well, and Gaffney seems to be putting it together a little bit. I mean, they're just so inconsistent, but they got good talent, good players. And, they get it home, they'd be hard to beat. But, Spartanburg Bowling Springs was, in my mind, not a huge upset because of the rivalry, and Bowling Springs does play pretty good defense. I guess if there were handicappers, Spartanburg would be the favorite. But in that respect, it was an upset. But not in my mind. I mean, when you get those rivalry games like that, and 2 pretty good defensive teams, it comes down to one player or 2.
David, I think maybe 2 of the really nice turnaround stories of the year are both in 4A, Berkeley and York. Both are 8-1, 4-0 in their regions, and both have huge games this Friday. Berkeley at Cane Bay, York at South Point. Did you see either one or both of these teams having the years they're having?
York, yeah. Berkeley, definitely. Berkeley returned a lot of guys. I mean, they were breaking in a new quarterback, but they had a lot of guys around them, a lot of guys on defense. Football down in the Low Country is not a juggernaut. So there were some, obviously, if you're a pretty good team, you can win 7 or 8 games down here, but they're pretty solid. I mean, I don't know that I would pick them in the lower state over Hartsville or North Myrtle Beach, but I would say Berkeley is probably right there in that 3 to 5 group. And in York, I don't know if they can beat South Point. I mean, I've been saying South Point was the best team in the state in any classification. So, I would think that was a big challenge for York. But, Bobby Carroll, he just finds a way. He puts teams together and makes them competitive, and they got some good players.
Don't sleep on Belton Honeypath either.
No, or Greer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bobby Carroll going back to face the monster he created.
Yes, absolutely.
At South Point. That should be a heck of a ball game. David, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you Friday night.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
Belton Honeypath might be the quietest one-loss team in the entire state of South Carolina, just because of what South Point has done in 4A.
BHP. Call me BHP.
And that is the most high school football you will hear me talk on this show.
That's good stuff, man. You know your stuff.
I'm there.
We'll be right back.
Third down and 10. Newton in the shotgun, looking slant, left side, broken up, and then intercepted. Picked off by the Bears, 40, 50. Newton trying to make the tackle, cannot do it. 20, down the far sideline, 10-5. It is a touchdown. Jackson again.
All right, time for some Panther talk here on Sports Talk as we continue. Brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. We welcome in the voice of the, I hate to say it, toothless Panthers from yesterday. Sorry,
we'll
Mick.
Take anything.
I mean, gee, what in the world was that?
It's all on the table. I mean, you could pretty much spin the big wheel like on, I don't know, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune. Play calling, people are talking about, although the play, I thought was a beautiful play design where Curtis Samuel fumbled the ball, scooped up by the Bears, Eddie Jackson, and returned 75 yards for the first touchdown of the game. Corn, you will not see a stat sheet like this. This is a once in every 5 or 6 year in the NFL game. Panthers had the ball for 39 minutes. The Bears got only 5 first downs. They threw only 7 passes, completed 4. 153 yards of total offense, 70 on one play. I mean, they did not pee a drop offensively, but they win the game by 14 points.
That's good. I had not heard that one before.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah, really. I like that one.
We've had a couple of good phrases tonight that
we have indeed,
for the first time coined.
So, I mean, was the initial fumble, the initial scoop and score, did that just break their back from that point moving forward?
Well, good teams find a way to recover from mistakes like that. Those kind of things can happen, but the Panthers did not recover. I mean, no touchdowns. Carolina drove the ball a couple of times and did not complete the drive. It seemed to be, but wasn't all the Panthers. I mean, it was a bad matchup. Vic Fangio, offensive or defensive coordinator, Corn, he specializes in the bend but don't break style of defense. You can get yards against Chicago, but they do a really nice job with their dogs. The exchange of rushers and droppers confuses defense or offenses with that D. They bank on the fact that you're not going to be able to go 80 yards in 16 plays, and when the field shrinks down in the reds, they're really good. So it was just not a good day for the Panthers.
The thing about the National Football League, Mick, that I'm noticing as I watch everything as I do, is that there really isn't a singularly good team, and there really isn't a team other than maybe Cleveland that is horrendous. There's a lot of in between, and I think there's at least 24 or 25 teams that are basically all about the same. How would you feel about that statement?
Oh, I think you're right on it. It's the allure of the NFL, but it's also the frustration of the NFL. The casual fan for the Panthers says, "Well, we're 4-2, they're 2-4, so we got this, right?" But all you got to do is peel it back and look at how many players they have that would start for us, how many players you have that would start for them, and you start getting nervous the closer you get to the game, and that's the way it was in Chicago yesterday. Now we are still 4-3. It's all right. The Panthers are no juggernaut, but as you allude to, there are none in the NFC. So let's go to Tampa Bay, win that game, get to 5-3, and then play at home for a couple weeks in a row.
I would think that with the way your schedule was lined up with so many road games in the first half of the season, that if you could get to 5-3, knowing you got on the back end more home games, you got to like your position.
Well said, Corn. Yeah, October's rugged. 4 out of 5 on the road in October, and then with at New England, at Detroit, the game yesterday, and then at Tampa Bay. Some pretty good teams on the schedule. Although I'm not trying to say Chicago's the 27 Yankees. I think the Panthers will probably win that one, maybe 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. But you can't let Chicago beat you twice. You got to hopefully get Kurt Coleman back, get Ryan Khalil healthy soon, and who knows about Luke Kuechly.
The Ed Dixon we saw get off the plane and play in Detroit, did he not get on the plane back to Carolina? And why are they targeting him more? He was such a great weapon against Detroit, or have people started to cover him?
I think they are, which is why you're not seeing him with the catches. The coaches said that they graded the tape, and Ed Dixon graded out very well. It just wasn't in the kind of splashy Sports Center highlight reel way from a couple of weeks ago. He blocked very well. He tried gamely to make the tackle twice. He tried to recover. He was the one that almost recovered the Curtis Samuel fumble, but got knocked off the ball by a linebacker. And then he almost made a valiant tackle of Jackson on the interception return for a touchdown.
I just want to know who you ticked off in the league office to get 4 out of 5 on the road like that.
It maybe the computer, the Ouija board
had a glitch.
I guess they do it with the Magic 8 ball and the Ouija board.
I think the Russians did it to you.
Really, really cool.
I think, really? You know, Mick. I mean, it's just 20 first downs for the Panthers to 5 for the. You get beat by a team that had 5 first downs the entire day.
I know they were 2 of 11 on third downs. They, they had 5. I think the first 5 possessions of the second half they went 3 and out.
Mm-hmm.
But they kept giving the ball back to the Panthers, but Carolina could not do much with it.
Yeah.
How would you grade Cam Newton's performance at this point of the year? Because again, in the wins he's been very good, and the losses not as much.
We're asking him to do so much. I mean, he's the non-Cam Newton rushers have not been productive, and the Panthers may not be really the kind of offensive team they want to be until they figure out how runners other than Cam Newton can get yards. Newton had a mixed bag on Sunday. He was wild high on a couple of throws. Had a couple of throws that receivers could have caught, but they did not catch the ball cleanly. I think the overarching thing is with Cam is, can he get rid of the ball just a half a beat more quickly so that he's not sacked 5 times like he was yesterday?
By the way, Mick, I declared here on Sports Talk last week that all graduates of the last 20 years from OJ University, you know, the one that got away with murder like OJ did, those diplomas are all null and void. However, I did put you in the exception category because I think you've been out for longer than 20 years. So I'm confident that your diploma is a real one.
I graduated Saturday, May 11th, 1980. And
that's outside of the realm of Corn's time frame.
Yes.
Corn wasn't even born then, I don't think.
I think you're good.
No, man. Corn was around when they were chiseling stuff on the 10 Commandments.
Your sheepskin came from real sheep up there in Chapel Hill.
My student ID number was single digits. How long ago that was.
What you got tonight on your show with the Panthers across the Carolinas?
Coach Rivera will be joining us in the studio or in the red zone where we do the show. And then Taylor Moton, offensive line, versatile combo guard tackle, will be our player guest in the second half of the show.
We thank you so much. Have a great show. We'll talk to you next week, and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you, fellas. Always good talking to you.
You too. Big game for the Panthers. It's a divisional game against Tampa Bay, which I'm trying to remember. Did they hold on and win, or did they lose yesterday?
I think Buffalo beat them.
Buffalo beat them at the very
end. Oh,
that's right. Adam Humphries fumbled.
Yes.
On a reception, and that led to the winning field goal by the Bills.
And, of course, who head coach of the Buffalo Bills came from the Panthers.
That's correct.
And it was just a bad homecoming for Ron Rivera, who cut his teeth as defensive coordinator
it's a little
with the Chicago Bears.
Man, I tell you, boy.
The jinx of John Fox.
Who came up with the saying that statistics are for losers? I mean, you look at the numbers there. There's no way the Panthers lost that game.
No.
But they lost that game.
That's why they played the game.
Okay, we got Redskins and Eagles tonight. That should be pretty good.
The game.
And then it's a Talking Tuesday returns tomorrow. I'll be up at Clemson.
And I'll be here.
And Willie Peenager will be over at USC.
What the heck is that?
Peenager. That's a tribute to your youthfulness. Yeah, instead of a teenager, you are a teenager.
Like it was a knock.
I think that's a shot.
No, it was not a shot.
I think Aaron Judge struck out again.
All right. Thank you, Brian Leonard, for a great night of work behind the scenes. And we'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.